welcome to The Wiz Says. I am The Wiz. This past weekend, I finally decided to watch Captain America Civil War. Now, before I get into the movie itself, I just want to reiterate some points. I do really like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They've been some great movies, there's been some okay movies. There's only really been one bad. They turned out to be cinematically very good, very well made movies, and exciting action movies for this generation. And part of the reason why they're defined on this generation now is the Avengers. The Avengers, the first one, was an excellent movie that kick-started off this big superhero boom. Now, as I say this, after watching Captain America Civil War, I've come across a few concerns that some were kind of, it's okay. Others were kind of alarming. The first thing I've noticed right away is that Captain America from the first movie, which was great, the Captain America, the First Avenger, to Captain America, Winter Soldier, now to Civil War, he doesn't have that good of a character arc. In the first one, it was an excellent character arc. It was him being this guy who wanted to do good by his country and did everything he could, and became the super soldier, to then Winter Soldier being a cross between a superhero film and a 90s Tom Clancy film. And then we have Civil War, which deepening the characters of the cinematic universe. It fails on that one, and it doesn't fail spectacularly, but it does fail it in that matter. The problem with the Captain America movies specifically is that they have no identity anymore. Captain America, along with the character and his movies, are basically whatever they need to be. They are essentially mini Avengers movies, and some might not see them as a problem, and that's fine. You know, you still get the big action pieces, but you don't get the character, the character depth that you would get in an Iron Man, or less likely in a Thor. Now, with his films not having any identity other than being a mini Avengers movie, the point of the Avengers films was to have this stop point from that we set this up, and here is the end of this first act. We set this up, here's the end of the second half. And the middle chapters were supposed to be something that bridges everything along. Literally, there's only passing mentions of what happens in each of the Captain America movies, which means each of the Captain America movies don't really have much to do with each other. And you could say that's because of the overall arc of the entire cinematic universe. One of the main problems with the Captain America movies in Civil War is the use of Bucky, who is used in The Winter Soldier and is promptly used again in Civil War. And that is, Bucky is pretty much the MacGuffin that starts everything up again. And they did it once with Winter Soldier. To go down that well again, it's a little stale. And the Bucky character, the Winter Soldier, isn't a great character either in these films. In fact, he is probably one of the most boring of any of the characters. That's including Captain America, who himself is pretty bland and pretty not that very interesting. The second problem that I've come across with this movie in particular is the fact that there is no civil war. Instead, they do what's called the Slovakia Accords, which is where they pretty much take what Man of Steel did with Batman vs. Superman tried to do with Man of Steel, and basically say, look at all the destruction that you made and all of this damage that you caused. someone has to regulate you, and someone has to keep you guys in check. And Tony Stark is the one that thinks this is a good idea, whereas Captain America doesn't think so. And the only reason why Captain America doesn't think so is because of how it hurts Bucky. That is shaky ground to actually walk on. It's asking you to pretty much expect Captain America to basically go against what his credo would be, which would be, I have to protect the greater good of my country and from my people. And then instead say, this is my friend, you're not going to hurt him, blah, 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 blah. And that's antithetical to what Captain America should be. And that is kind of the problem with Captain America in these movies. He's portrayed as one thing, but he is another. And some may excuse that for depth. In order for there to be depth, there has to be conflict. And at no point in the film, or any of the films, does Captain America, Steve Rogers, have a conflict or problem with saving Bucky. He looks at Bucky being his sole responsibility. And that is the problem. If you don't have some sort of conflict that comes in between his meaning to be the head of the Avengers or to save his best friend, without that conflict, there's nothing there but a lower sense of depth, which hurts the character. Problem number 3, mainly with the film, is this shouldn't have been a Captain America film. It should have been an Iron Man film. If you look at the Iron Man films, you can describe Tony Stark in a number of things that can be one-dimensional, but he is the most fully dimensional character in the MCU right now, mainly because of how Robert Downey Jr. portrays him. They portray Tony Stark as a multifaceted character. He's cocky. He does have a conscience, but he's also very self-serving. He's witty. He's sarcastic. He's all these things. He's really the only one that has a three-dimensional character portrait in the entire MCU at this point. For this to really work, the Civil War thing, I mean, Iron Man dealt with in one, he dealt with his conscience, which is him never wanting to sell weapons. In 2, he dealt with whiplash. That could have been better. But in 3, they gave him a PTSD kind of subplot that was pretty good and gave him more depth that he needed, which is what makes him the most interesting character in this series. Well, imagine with Iron Man Civil War, we'll call it, where they will explore him and his reasoning of guilt of what happened with the Ultron Project, what happened with what happened in New York, the thoughts and the feelings of the fact that because he jump-started all of this, he's the one that started an MCU universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is he the cause of all this horrible villainy that's going on now, all this damage, which would lead him to sign with the Secretary of State Ross to do the Slovakia Accords. In 5 minutes, I just made a better story than Captain America Civil War did. That right there, for the first 30 to 45 minutes, would have been excellent to spin everything off. Not go back to Bucky. It really was the wrong move in this circumstance. Now, with those 3 things said, the movie's a good time. It's fun. I enjoyed it for what it was. And that's sort of why I'm getting concerned with the MCU right now. Because if you look at the past few films, Ant-Man, Thor the Dark World, there is, well, in some extents, Iron Man 3. I would say Guardians of the Galaxy is a bad movie. Some may not agree. I definitely feel like it is. The formula is getting kind of stale. And there was warning signs of this happening. And with new films with Black Panther coming up and Captain Marvel has to be a really dynamic character to work if they're not going to do a Black Widow movie. This movie, out of anything, showed me that this MCU needs a restart. Not a complete refresh where you would have to get new actors to portray new characters and to do the story over again. No, I don't want that. The one thing it needs is what the Harry Potter films did with Chris Columbus for the first two movies, and then Alfonso Cuarón in the third movie, which is basically say we need a new vision, we need a new look, we need a new feel to this movie, to these movies, and to go forward. Now, that being said, I have not seen Doctor Strange. That movie could have fixed everything, making this point moot. But I will say that this series of films, this MCU series, I'm feeling needs to step away from the Russo brothers and get a legitimate, artful director, like the Harry Potter movies did, and go forward with a brand new vision, and then give somebody else, like David Yates, a mainstay to go forward with. Final notes on this. Again, the movie's good. It's got good action scenes. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and I cannot wait for Spider-Man Homecoming. That I am interested in. This series needs a jump start, and Civil War just spelled it out to me loud and clear that they need a vision change, and they need it soon. The past near decade, they've been going through the same course. If they don't change course soon, and they don't find a new vision at some point, you're going to see these films go down the tubes just like the Batman films from the 90s did. And I don't think anyone really wants that, especially Warner Brothers with their DCU, since it doesn't look like they're going to get it right unless Wonder Woman really hits it out of the park, which I am hoping so, because Wonder Woman was so good in Batman vs. Superman. She was the only thing good in Batman vs. Superman. What do you think? What do you think of Civil War? Do you think Captain America is a stale character? Who do you think should repurpose the entire branding of the MCU, give it a new vision? Do you think all my theories and all my thoughts are complete bunk? Put it down in the comment section. Like if you liked the video, subscribe if you want more. And as always, thank you for watching, and tune in next time to see what the Wiz says.